Hello, 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 and welcome to Freedom Revamped, the podcast. I am clearly not Deshawn, the regular host, but I am the owner and founder of Freedom Revamped, Kourtney Galloway. Today I have two very special guests with me. Their names are Rhonda Galloway and Queen Hamer. Rhonda is a behavioral health nurse, and Queen is a mental health technician. But their two most important jobs are being my mother and being my sister. So, Mother, would you like to introduce yourself, and then Ari, you can follow?
Hi, I am Rhonda Galloway, as Courtney has already mentioned. I am her mother and also the mother of Ariana Hamer.
Hi all, I am Queen Hamer. I am Courtney's sister. I'm also a mental health technician, and I'm also pursuing going to medical school. So, thank you guys for having us.
Yes, thank you both for being here today. Before I hop into the topic of today, I'm going to ask you both to define freedom. So whoever feels comfortable going first, you may.
Okay, so being free, or what freedom means to me, is being able to love the skin that you're in, being authentic, and just being comfortable in loving yourself. You know how people say, "Can you go on a date with yourself?" When you're comfortable enough to go on a date with yourself, you are free.
And freedom for me is just basically being able to be your true self, not having to think outside of who others think that you are, but who do you think you are, being comfortable in the skin that you're in.
Yes, yes, I love both of those definitions. So the topic for today is navigating mother-daughter relationships. I know when I sent them both the topic, they were like, "Oh, okay." And I feel like a lot of times we don't talk about navigating through mother-daughter relationships. We just kind of navigate through them, and that is okay to work it out, but sometimes you just need to talk about it. So the first question is going to go to you, Mother, and I want to ask you, how is it being a single mother of two totally different individuals?
Who child? Who child? So, to honestly answer that, of course, we all know that being a parent and raising kids, that there's no booklet, no instructions to how to raise kids. And then on top of that, when you talk about trying to raise children that are totally different, one of the things that I always base my parentship, if that's what you want to call it, raising kids on. You have to treat everybody as an individual. And then the very first thing that I always said to myself, and in raising that, kids are a gift from God. God trusted me with two beautiful daughters, and it was my duty to do the best that I can, because I looked at it as a stewardship. God gave me you all, He loaned me you all. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to do my best to raise you all in the fear of Him, and to so that you would abide by his commandments, so that you can become God-fearing young women. So in doing that, even though there are so many similarities because you grow up under the same roof, but there's also a lot of differences as far as personality, where you have one child that's really outgoing, and one that's headstrong, and one that just kind of just out there, just a butterfly. So you just take each individual, and with the word of God, you impart that in them, and then you take each person as an individual. I do know that a lot of times what people think is that you favor one child over the other, but that's not necessarily true. Because of the different personalities, you have to treat each child differently. and just know what their personality is and what their needs is. Where one child may require more attention or more physical contact, then the other child may not necessarily need that. They may need monetary or gifts or something like that. It's almost like knowing what the love language is of that child, and then you abide by that.
Awesome, awesome. I definitely that was something I was going to bring up later is love languages and how you navigate through that, but you brought it up, so that is perfect. Now to Ari, I want to ask you, you were an only child for almost 7 years. So how did you navigate from being an only child to being an older sister, and how did that kind of change as we both got older?
I think that's a good question. I really had to think about this question because it's not something that I actually, have sat down and thought through. So, Courtney was born when I was 6.5 years old, so we're 6.5 years apart. But before that, I was just kind of used to being up until about 3, which is when Alexis, who is also our cousin, was born. We were together a lot. So I think that was the first time when I started to feel responsible for somebody else. um, it's always a transition when you go from being by yourself to then being responsible for others. But one of the things that we have instilled in our family is that family is important. Family looks out for each other. So even at 6.5 years old, I know that this is my younger sister. I know that I love her, and that it's innate in me to always want to protect you. Like no matter what can a 6.5-year-old do? But at the same time, nobody's gonna mess with my sister but me. So and navigating through that is more so learning that it's not all about you anymore. Not like it ever, was about you, but shifting your mindset to realizing, okay, it's more than just me. So if I go get a toy from the store, it's not just me getting a toy, it's my sister gets a toy too. Or if we go get ice cream, it's not just I want ice cream, it's does she want ice cream too. So even at a young age, just learning how to think about others. I'm not gonna say that it was easy. 6.5 years is a big difference. But now that we're older, the age gap seems to be closing a lot. And honestly, I feel like our sisterhood is turning into like a friendship, whereas it was more so of, trying to be a leader, keep her on the right path, which is still things that I do, but now it's growing into a close friendship that I truly appreciate.
I'm not crying, y'all are. But um I think definitely as a younger sister, there are things we have to learn too, because oftentimes we do think about the fact that, oh, when you become an older sister, you have to learn stuff. But as a younger sister, you have to learn things too, such as um, when your sister is advising you on something, it's not because she's doing it from a good place, is what I'm saying. Like she's trying to direct you in the right path because she's been through this or something similar. So oftentimes when Ari would try to correct me, I would be like, oh, whatever, I can't stand that girl. But as I got older and may have repeated something, I was like, okay, maybe I should have listened to her because she wasn't doing it to harm me. She was coming from a good place for it. So the next question I have is, and I think all three of us have to answer this because it might be different from for all of us. But what is the hardest obstacle you believe we have overcome as a family?
Ooh, that is a good question. Ugh,
Loaded.
it's, yeah, that could take all night to answer. Um, but I think that one of the things hardest obstacles that we've had to overcome um, is like because we were such a closely one of them is because we were such a closely knitted family, because it was just the three of us for so long, is that when I had to leave and leave you all with other family members, that was to me was a very biggie, especially going over across the water and not seeing each other every day, on different time zones, and with you all going through your different um, transitions of growing up to be young ladies. I think that that was one of the biggest obstacles that we had to overcome, and we did it. And thank God for technology that allowed us to overcome that obstacle of keeping our family closely knitted. So that's the one I can think of.
Um, I think for me, our biggest obstacle um is learning how to communicate with each other. I think that between the three of us, that there are very different personalities, but they're very similar at the same time. I think for a long time we really just didn't know how to communicate as far as this is how I feel, or this is what I'm trying to say to you, and it coming off wrong. And I think that that's going to be something that's ever evolving because we're always changing as people. But I know something that worked really well for us was writing it down on paper, writing it down, getting it out, and then having a discussion about it later. I think that with me and Kourtney, we are similar in the fact that we are very emotionally driven. So in that moment, whether we're really excited or we're really upset, then emotions can sometimes take over. Most of the time, they do take over, and that's not always the appropriate way to communicate with, especially like anybody, but especially between us three. So learning how to navigate through expressing how we feel about certain things, but at the same time being respectful to our mom.
Yes, I definitely agree with both of those, and I think my answer was leaning more towards mom's, whereas when she, especially when you first got stationed in Georgia, I was like, okay, what do we do now? Like, of course, we knew we would be able to talk to you and travel, and we were staying with family, but definitely dealing with military stuff where you had to leave us with other family members, like you said. But I think one way we overcame that particular obstacle is because outside of the three of us, we have a very close knit family, a very supportive family. And it wasn't just affecting me and Ari, it was affecting grandma, our cousins, GT, Punk, and Kate. It was affecting everybody. So to know that it wasn't just affecting us helped a lot, but at the same time it was like, I mean, I know it's affecting you, but you her cousin, she my mama. But definitely that was an obstacle, and definitely like Ari said, communication was a huge thing that we're still working through. Like everyone, every once in a while you don't want to express how you're feeling about certain things, but you have to understand that when you're dealing with any relationships, platonic or intimate, that you have to communicate in order for that relationship to succeed. So keeping that in mind, that if you don't communicate, it affects the other person as well, is a way you can navigate through that. um so to mom, what advice would you give to a single mother?
So, one of the first things that advice that I would give them is to make sure, number one, that you're grounded in a relationship with God, or whatever your higher being is. For me, it's God, and keeping Him in the forefront of your relationship with your kids. Number two advice that I would give to single parents is that whatever the reason of your singleness, whether is the death of the father of your kids, or the separation of the father of your kids, don't ever berate their father. don't ever talk to them about the negative aspects of their father. um, Eventually they will find out the truth. And one of the things that I found with so many other single mothers is because of anger, because of the relationship not working out for whatever reason. Then they tend to put the children in the middle of whatever's going on with their father. So I would just say, don't do that. He may be low down and dirty, but let that kid find out that for themselves, because the truth will come out. And just always just keep a positive attitude and about it. It's not easy raising kids by yourself, but as long as you have that village, you have God, then you can do it.
I 100% agree because I'm obviously not a mother or a single mother, but I grew up in a household with a single mother, and um my mother never talked bad about either of our fathers, but when your father isn't in your life, it's already hard. So I can't even imagine having um, you know, seen arguments or anything like that because it's already hard growing up in a single household even if you have family who does support you. So my next question is to Ari, and I want to ask you, what advice would you give to an older sister?
Hmm. Um, to an older sister, I would say that whether you want to be or not, being an older sister or being an older sibling in general, it makes you a leader. You have people that are looking up to you. So I would say cover your sibling. I think that's one of the things that drives me. My love for you makes me always want to protect you, makes me always want to cover you, makes me always want what's best for you. Is it easy all the time? No. Is it rewarding? Very. And then too, I think a lot of times when we're trying to be leaders or we're trying to steer, you in the right direction, sometimes we don't listen. And my next thing of advice would be was to listen. Because if you talk all the time, you know, younger siblings have things that they go through, things that they need to say. And if you listen, most of the time that's the only thing that they really need. So cover your sibling and listen, love. And then if you have a relationship with God, that comes anyway. The scripture says, you're your brother's keeper. I'm my sister's keeper, always and forever. So those are, two little tidbits of advice that I would give to an older sister.
Yes, and to a younger sibling, I would say, like I said earlier, know that when you're specifically your older sibling, but also your parents, when they're speaking to you, they're coming from a place of love. It may not be easy because normally when you're the younger sibling, I mean, you're spoiled already, you think you're right. But these people are older than you, so they have been through things and they're coming from a place of love when they advise you. So those are all the questions I have. I'm not sure if you two wanted to share anything else before I close out.
Um, I don't have anything that I want to particularly share other than, thank you for having us. We're proud of what you're doing, and that like the opportunity to speak about our relationship in this level was therapeutic. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
I'm mad that y'all both just did that. But thank you, mother and sister, for joining me on Freedom Revamp the podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow us on all social platforms, and look out for another podcast episode. K out.